personal stories about people.
Oh, and I'm not, no one will see this,
Good,
you know?
good.
I mean, you have to tell me what you want me to do with it.
No, good. You keep it as a record for the future.
Okay, so now, that brings us up to, first of all, you're thought of as a politician, not a doctor.
Unfortunately, but because it's quite right, I mean, half of my productive life, I mean, the only times when I've acted as a doctor have been those first years at Rotifung, Jama. The 2 years I was teaching, but it was a medical school, therefore it was like a doctor. It was mostly as a doctor. The 5 years in Geneva, WHO, and 3 years in Brazzaville as WHO. Those are all medical. 15 years on the faculty of Harvard University Medical School. All of those are important, doctor. My political things are so few. But that's where people seem to want to put all the blame on me.
See, I'm just slowing down here. Let me just stop this for 1 second.
Regularly, and plotted how to make sure that I did not win the election.
Well, we'll get to that point when we get to that election. But okay, now it's 1964, and I just read a quick quote from you. This is from Abdul Karoma's book. On his deathbed, Sir Milton had made clear his wish for John Karefa-Smart to succeed him as Prime Minister rather than his brother Albert Margai.
That's their feeling. We don't have real evidence. We only have hearsay.
Well, that's what I'm going to ask you to comment on. Mohammed El-Siddiqui, then Secretary to the Cabinet, said, quote, when Sir Milton fell ill, he confided in some close associates that if he were to be taken to Britain for medical treatment, then as a temporary measure, the Honourable Yankee Cisse should act as Prime Minister. But if death overtook him, then John Karefa-Smart was to succeed him as Prime Minister.
Yeah, he would know because he was private secretary.
So what happened?
See, that I had not known. This is the first time I've...
Oh, it is?
Well, shall we deal with that now as the next thing? Okay.
If you would.
It's an interesting story. I told you about... In fact, we started talking about his liver, treating himself.
Yeah.
Well, as a fellow physician, and also at the same time as number 2 person, and knowing that I didn't know at that time that he'd said that Yankee Cisse would take his place, because I thought I would take his place while he was in England, as I did whenever he was ill. So I called the cabinet together and I said, look, fellows, as a doctor, I know why I'm recommending this. We must send Sir Milton Margai to England, because if we don't, they will blame us. You don't have enough doctors here, why didn't you arrange for him to go to England?
Right.
So I said, we cannot assume that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to call Sekou Touré in Guinea and Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana and ask them, please, if either of them would send a plane for us, because we don't know when the next plane is going to be to England. And they said, okay, if you think we should do that, let's agree to do that. So we called them, and both of them said, yes, you just let us know. And we said, tomorrow if possible. And they said, don't worry, when the time comes, we will be there. One of us will be there. We'll arrange them ourselves. So I went with Reverend Renner, who was a Creole minister of my church, who was very close, Sir Milton Margai and all of us Harvard Academy people. I went with him to say prayers with Sir Milton Margai before I went down to the dinner, which the visiting Vice President of Liberia was giving us a farewell dinner. He'd been with us 1 week and we had entertained him. He was giving a farewell dinner, but Sir Milton could not go. So Ren and I went and stopped Sir Milton to pray with him. So that I will go to the thing and tell him, you know, doctor, we've arranged and we've agreed tomorrow you will go to England to be treated. He said, fine, you go to the dinner. We went to the dinner. Halfway through the dinner, since I was the official guest, because Sir Milton could not go, and our host was Tubman, who was the visiting Vice President of Liberia. We had started, soup had gone through, the entree was just beginning to be served, when the Commissioner of Police sent a policeman with me with a message saying Sir Milton passed. And I got this message and I whispered to the visiting Vice President, I said, I've just received a message that Sir Milton has died. He said, okay, let's cancel dinner, let's tell everyone the dinner is cancelled because the Prime Minister died. So the dinner was cancelled. We all went up there because we had to, and the next day now, since I had not heard about somebody else taking his place while he was gone, I called a meeting of the cabinet and said we're now going to arrange the funeral of Sir Milton. Fortunately for us, the Vice President of Liberia, who's here, has offered that he will provide the coffin because he knows we don't have any, what do they call them, people who take care of
undertakers. Yeah.
Yes, and you don't have any good, decent coffins. We have beautiful coffins from America. We'll send one for you. And I told them all of that. It was while we were making all of those arrangements for the funeral with all the diplomatic corps around me and promising what they were going to do, that a message came on the TV, radio, you know, they had a broadcast system there. The Governor General has appointed Albert Magai as Prime Minister in succession for his brother. And everybody gasped, how could this be? I mean, the man is not even been buried yet, and here we are arranging his funeral, and you appoint a Governor General. So we all got very angry, and then we dismissed. And that evening, Yankee Sise, who was one of the northern ministers, we met in his house.
This person.
Yes, and we said, how could we accept this like this? I mean, we know we're a British colony, and the Queen accordingly has the right to appoint Prime Minister, but the Queen never does that without consulting with the party, because she doesn't know the party, she doesn't know them, he has to ask them. And the Governor General, without even telling any of us who are members of the ruling party, are told that we now have a new Prime Minister. So they said, okay, let's go and meet the Governor General the next morning. And we said we will send a delegation to him, and we adjourned. We went to the Governor General next morning, we told him what we heard, and we don't like it. He said, well, gentlemen, you know, I was advised by the lawyers that I have the right as the Governor General to appoint whoever I wished. He said, the terms of the Constitution. We said, yes, sir, that is true, whoever you wish, but your wish has to depend upon the advice that you get. He said, well, I'm sorry, but the only way you can challenge me is when Parliament opens, vote of non-confidence. If you have enough people, then of course I will withdraw. We said, sir, I mean, you know you cannot do that. In the interval between the time when you appointed him and now that we're talking, he's called all the important people in Parliament and promised them portfolios and things. You think they're going to vote us with us? He said, well, you know that, but I've done it already, so there's nothing we can do. So this is how that happened.
So why do you think he did that?
Again, advised. He advised by his Creole, but he was Creole. And people like Bethan Macaulay and the others, what's his name, the one who was our ambassador here?
Oh, Gershom
Collier,
yeah.
And people the person who was in charge of communication then, Thomas Decker, they all said, wow, this is our chance now, we Creole boys, we can, government journalists, how we can do what we want. And that's how they advised him.
But why, but Albert Magai was also a province, I mean, he was a Mendi, right? So
yeah, but you know, there was a thing between his, you know that part of that story, don't you?
Not sure.
Okay, the story is as follows. When we came back from London, it was time for us, because we were looking forward to the second time we came back from London, when we got the independence date fixed. We were looking forward to the time when we would do the right things, you know, election, etc. So as a party, following our party constitution, we had to elect our leader who would take us into independence. And we met in Sir Milton's parlor up in the place there. And the protocol, we said, it's now time to elect a prime minister. Somebody said, we nominate Albert Magai to succeed his brother who is now old. And the others said, oh yes, I think you're right, so let's vote. And they voted. And he had one vote more than his brother, Sir Milton Magai. And he said, you see, now they've elected me. We said, no, sir, we are not going to accept that. I was the leader of this, so I was his enemy. You see, I said to the chiefs, I said, look, you know how Sir Milton Magai respected you people. You know our custom. Do you think our people of country will agree for a younger brother who was educated by his brother to take the power from him at this crucial moment where we are going to be independent? They said, no, we will not agree. We will not accept what the Governor General said. We will not accept it. So he said, okay, if you all put pressure on me, I will agree. let us make him prime minister, but I'm going to form my own party. That's how it started, you see. So from that time, there was that division. But towards the end, peace came between them, and he was brought back into the cabinet, and he even took the finance ministry from Pa Mustafa, and he got it. But things were never very right with him. And he did not like the idea. He really did not like the idea that he'd been deprived of being prime minister, because we did not accept the elected victory of one vote over his brother.
What did you do after that?
Oh, this led to my leaving. Since I was a member of parliament, he could do nothing about that.
Right.
And so when he called parliament, I attended as a member of the SLPP. He left me out of the cabinet altogether. He didn't even offer me a portfolio. I was just John Karefa-Smart, member from Tonkolili West. I would come. But then I had to leave the country because the Commissioner of Police, this is the part of the story you have to get. The Commissioner of Police, when this thing happened, in 2 or 3 days after the funeral, he came to my house and said, "Doctor, I think you'd better leave the country." He said, because Albert Magai, he was not knighted at that time, has heard that you are going to organize all the people in the north to fight against him. He says this is the story that he has. And if you stay here, he will arrest you and charge you with treason. He says the best thing for you to go, since I as Commissioner of Police know that this is not true, you better leave the country. So I left the country on ceremoniously within a week of this thing happening. And as soon as I got here, my good luck again, my former colleague of mine at Harvard, who was working as Deputy Commissioner of Police for New York, under the man who was Commissioner of Police, who at the same time became the head of the School of Public Health at Columbia University. He said, "Well, we hear that you've come back home. Listen, I will talk to the head of the School of Public Health and see if we cannot find a job for you." And so they appointed me not a visiting professor. I was assistant administrator of the School of Public Health of Columbia University. And that was my political appointment. But if Parliament was called, I would tell them, look, I'm a member of Parliament in Sierra Leone, must go. So on 2 different occasions, I came to attend a meeting of Parliament. On the second occasion, while I was attending the meeting of Parliament, I had no place to stay but the government hotel, the one on Wilkinson Road.
Oh yeah, sure.
That one.
Yeah.
I was there, and at lunch, we were having lunch, when the spokesman for the SLPP, a fellow whose name I remember, you can find his name also, got up in the middle of lunch and said, "Gentlemen, I want to tell you something. The Prime Minister has let me announce that any of you expatriates who are found fraternizing with Dr. Karefa-Smart will be declared a persona non grata." He declared this in public at the hotel.
Wow.
I got so angry, I said to the man, "Please give me a piece of paper." And he gave it to me, and I wrote a letter. "Dear Shaka Stevens, you know I have been a member of the SLPP from the beginning. You know that you were a member too, but you broke away from the SLPP. You now have your own party. Since I am told that I am no longer welcome in the SLPP, will you accept me as a member of the APC?" And of course he did. So that's how I left. I left the thing. I left the country in the beginning because the
Right.
Commissioner of Police told me that I would be subject to treason. Now I'm told that even my friends would be declared persona non grata, so let me leave. And it was my leaving SLPP with all that influence I had with Sir Milton Magai, with all the chiefs on the favor, that made the people up north leave SLPP and join APC. The result was, in the next election, APC won the election. So even Shaka Stevens, who later treated me the way he did, he's becoming the next